Have you ever had those days in which you just can't seem to focus? You can't think clearly, you're forgetful, you have this sense of fogginess in your head, you're maybe a bit groggy, and you tend to procrastinate on the things that need to be done throughout the day. Now, this isn't your fault. What you may be experiencing is brain fog. Hi, my name is Alex Demerel. I'm a health and performance coach, and we help entrepreneurs optimize their health so they can perform at the top 1% in their field. And in today's video, we're going to learn about what brain fog is, what causes it, why you should actually care about it and fixing it, and the solutions so that you can go away and have endless amounts of focus, energy, and basically no brain fog. So what is brain fog? If you Google what brain fog is, you would come up with the definition of a usually temporary state of diminished mental capacity marked by an inability to concentrate or to think or reason clearly. If that rings any bells, then listen up. We're going to give you the solution for it. Now, why should you even care about fixing brain fog in the first place? Maybe you don't even think you have it, but I guarantee by the end of this video, the things we're going to go through, you might think differently. Because if you have even a little bit of brain fog, you're not performing at your best. You're leaving potential performance on the table. And remember, your mind is the most valuable asset you have. It's what you use to navigate this world. It's what people use to build businesses. It's what people use to get what they want out of this life. And if it's not performing at its best because of inflammation, because of what we call oxidative stress that you're about to learn about, then again, you're leaving performance on the table. Imagine how it would feel to wake up clear-minded, supercharged, energized, ready to go, and you're getting things done because you're eating the right foods and you have the right protocols in place. So we're about to give you them. But before we do that, what is the main cause of brain fog? In a nutshell, it's inflammation in the brain, specifically the part of brain called the limbic system. This is in control of how alert you feel, your circadian rhythm, your overall mood, your energy, your motivation, executive function. It controls a lot of things. Now, if this part of the brain is inflamed because of our lifestyle choices and the foods that we're eating, then you'll have symptoms of brain fog. So remove the inflammation in that part of the brain, you remove brain fog. Now, how do we do that? Firstly, we need to understand the common triggers of inflammation in the brain so that we can avoid those triggers. So if we're looking at it here, most commonly it's inflammatory additives in foods. Our diet is terrible nowadays. People think it's healthy, but there's certain additives in foods that you're about to find out, such as MSG, lectins, aspartame, seed oils, trans fats, nitrates. More on all this in a little bit, but for now, you need to sort out your diet. That's probably a large contributing factor to your brain fog. Other factors like water source as well, so low quality water source, even when they think it's of high quality. Trust me, if you were to look inside of a pipe that delivers your water source, you'd be very shocked to see what you find there. Other triggers also include insulin resistance or hypoglycemia, hypo being low, glycemia referring to blood sugar. We're looking at meal configuration and too much high sugar, high fat in your meals. We're looking at chronic stress. We live in a society which we're constantly stressed. When we're talking about stress, we're not just talking about mental stress, we're talking about physical stress in the body as well. So even people maybe exercise too much, that could be causing brain fog. Trauma, PTSD, all these things can contribute towards the impaired function of the limbic system. Another one is drugs. So alcohol, the most widely abused drug in the world, cannabis, and even a cause of antibiotics. Another one is environmental toxins, a big one really. So we're looking at heavy metals in our water, in the foods that we eat, the things that we cook our foods with, the plastic containers that we put our foods in. And another big factor is poor sleep and impaired circadian rhythms. Again, remember, we know that the limbic system is associated or responsible for the circadian rhythm. So if our limbic system is impaired, then you can be sure that you're going to struggle with poor sleep. So let's break it down and tackle each point with a solution. So let's start with inflammatory additives in our foods. So the solution for this is avoiding these additives. So we mentioned it before, but to go over it, avoid lectin containing foods. We'll tell you what these are in a minute. Avoid gluten, or limit gluten, I should say. Avoid MSG, aspartame, artificial sweeteners, seed oils, so canola oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, rice bran oil. Now, some of the foods you can expect to find these ingredients in are mostly packaged foods, processed foods, salad dressings. Of course, we want to avoid them, but it goes deeper than that. So let's start with gluten. That's pretty obvious if it wasn't already, but you just want to limit gluten. Everybody has different sensitivities to gluten. Some people have celiac disease, unfortunately. Some people can tolerate quite a bit of gluten before having symptoms of brain fog or irritation in the gut. For you, the best way to find out is to take something like a gluten sensitivity test or a food sensitivity test. But it's always best just to limit these food sources of bread, pasta, and anything else containing gluten. If you are going to consume bread, make sure it's of the highest quality as well. So I recommend something like sourdough. The yeast is the most familiar to our gut bacteria because we've been using that the longest. Now, other additives that cause brain fog, nitrates. So this is found in mostly packaged meat or processed meats like salami, bacon especially. So again, avoid that. MSG. Now, when we look at MSG, why does that cause brain fog? Well, that's because MSG is converted into a compound called glutamate within the body. Now, glutamate isn't inherently bad, but too much of it can be toxic to the brain, leading to cell death, or what we call oxidative stress. In addition, glutamate overloads depleted glutathione. Glutathione is basically a super powerful antioxidant. Another ingredient is aspartame or artificial sweeteners. So with aspartame, you can find this in most commonly 0-calorie drinks or foods, sweeteners. Now, when you have too much aspartame, what can happen is it can pass the blood-brain barrier, causing, again, cell death or oxidization. So lectins as well. So lectins cause cell oxidization. So these are raw kidney beans, peanuts, whole grains, raw soybeans, raw potatoes. So at the very least, make sure you're cooking your foods properly, and also make sure that you are limiting these foods as well. This might be a bit overwhelming to think, I can't even eat anything. Everything basically causes cell oxidization. Everything is causing brain fog that we eat. But you'd be wrong, there are things you can eat. So instead, stick to what we call rainbow foods. These are foods that are colorful, that contain flavonoids. It's a powerful compound that acts as an antioxidant within the body. So rainbow foods, remember, just stick to plenty of colorful food. So eat your fruit, eat your veg. Another food that you want to eat is a food that contains quercetin. So quercetin is a powerful antioxidant, and again, it's reducing that inflammation in the brain. Foods include capers, red onions, kale, red apples, and buckwheat. Another food you'll be happy to hear you can eat that improves and reduces cell oxidation is dark chocolate. So make sure it's at least 70%, and that's because the cocoa flavonoids, which are the active compounds in cocoa powder, they have been shown to increase blood flow to the brain, providing it with an abundant supply of nutrients and oxygen. Other foods to consume are probiotic foods. So this includes sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, and kefir. And you can also supplement with probiotics as well, just make sure they're high quality. Another good food source is omega-3. So we're talking about wild fatty fish like salmon. If your salmon is not wild caught, is not organically sourced, then you're probably consuming heavy metals such as mercury, which defeats the whole point because that's an inflammatory to the brain. So if you're a bit cautious of that, you can supplement with something like a Heights fish oil or an IFOS fish oil. Now, why are we talking about organic so much when it comes to our whole food, and why is that so important? So it's not necessarily because of the more nutrients that it has, because that's not even necessarily the case. But what it is about is avoiding these additives. So the hormones, the pesticides that our crops are sprayed with, this all accumulates to, again, inflammation in the brain. So we want to reduce that. So in summary with the nutrition, because I know it's quite complicated and convoluted, basically just stick to colorful whole foods that are organically sourced, of the highest quality, and stay away from the processed foods that are packaged. Now, pro tip, if you shop in person, if you food shop in person, the best way to go about it is just stick to the perimeter of your food shop. You'll find that the food ingredients that you want, the whole food, colorful food, is located there. And remember, with all of this as well, to take a gut health test, make sure it's an accredited gut health test that's reputable, or a food sensitivity test to make sure that you can have a list of foods to avoid, foods that don't agree with you that potentially cause inflammation in your gut, because we know that inflammation in the gut can also be linked to inflammation in the brain, because the brain and the gut communicate via the gut-brain axis. Now, the gut health test that we use for food sensitivities is by a UK company called HealthPan, or if you're US, Viome. So another point that we mentioned when it comes to brain fog is insulin resistance or hypoglycemia. So a solution to this is just to measure your blood sugar through something like a CGM reader or continuous glucose monitor. We use a company called Very for our UK clients, and there's also a company called Levels for US clients as well. So make sure your meals are balanced of carbs, fat, and protein. Make sure you consume your meals every 3 to 4 hours to help keep your blood sugar steady. A steady blood sugar, steady energy levels, minimize brain fog. Another good point as well that we didn't mention is fasting as well. So I'm not the biggest advocate of fasting if you're already in a very stressful state, but granted that you've got your stress on point, your HRV is on point, fasting can be really good, again, to help alleviate the symptoms of brain fog, because we know that fasting can help with inflammation in the body and brain. So maybe fast until 10, push it till 12 p.m. if you like sometimes. With any information like this, always remember to consult your doctor, especially if you suspect you have insulin resistance. Another point that we made is our water source. Your water can be full of additives such as chloride, fluoride, heavy metals, hormones, pharmaceuticals such as antidepressants, or even in our water sources. So the way to get around that is to get something like a water filter. I recommend a reverse osmosis filter for our clients. If you're traveling, use something like glass bottled water. So Fiji water is also really good, or Voss water as well. The other factor that we mentioned that causes brain fog is stress, and stress is also related to exercise as well. So the solution here is to improve your HRV, which will help improve your stress capacity. Manage your stress through planning your day, your week, stress management protocols like meditation, and systematically using hormetic stress like sauna and cold plunges to help improve your ability to cope with stress as well. So the other trigger is drugs that we mentioned. So alcohol, THC, cannabis, a course of antibiotics. So the solution here is look into the deeper reason for why you're taking these compounds. So alcohol, is it escapism? Is it just because you want to be more social? But why is that? Get to the deeper why behind that. So another big one that we mentioned is environmental toxins. So let's deal with this. So the solution here is take a heavy metals test if you suspect you have heavy metals toxicity. You can also take a home mold test to detect if your home has mold in. Now, when we're also talking about the heavy metals in our foods or the way we cook our foods, so the pans that most people use are non-stick Teflon pans. This contains a compound called PFOA, a known carcinogen to the human body, and an inflammatory as well. Other factors like food containers, so plastics. So instead use glass containers like Pyrex. Use non-aluminium products for deodorant, so even your deodorant as well can contain aluminium. You can get non-aluminium products for that as well. Lastly, we're looking at impaired circadian rhythm and sleep. Now, sleep is a whole video in and of itself. I'm not going to go into that, but the solution for syncing your circadian rhythm or improving it is by getting outdoors and exposing yourself to natural infrared sunlight. So that's going to help calibrate your circadian rhythm. That's going to help keep you alert throughout the day and stave off brain fog. Now, as for sleep, this is Pandora's box. What you want to do with this is perform a sleep hygiene. Now, if you want to learn more about this, just go and watch my video somewhere here about how to fix your sleep. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more content when it comes to optimizing your health and eradicating your health problems. And don't forget to let me know in the comments what video you guys want to see next. Or if you continue to struggle with brain fog or you have any other health issues, reach out to me on some platforms, email, Instagram. I'd be more than happy to help out. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.